There comes a moment in every life when the world feels heavy, when the path ahead looks blurred, and the heart grows tired of trying to hold everything together. We've all stood in that quiet place between hope and despair, wondering if things will ever change. But there is a sacred turning point, soft, gentle, and powerful, when a person decides to stop wrestling with life and start trusting the one who shaped it. And in that moment, almost like the rising of a new dawn, something shifts. The air feels lighter, the burden loosens its grip, the soul remembers its strength. Because the moment you trust God, truly trust Him, life begins to move in ways you never imagined. Today, I want to talk about that sacred shift, the one that happens not outside of you, but deep within you, when trust becomes the doorway to peace, purpose, and transformation. Fear has a way of whispering lies to the human heart. It tells us we are not enough, that our dreams are too far away, that the storms we face are stronger than we are. It clouds our vision and presses down upon our shoulders until even the smallest step forward feels impossible. Yet, fear is not the final word. There is a force far greater than any worry, any trembling, any shadow that creeps across our path. That force is trust in God. The moment we choose to hand over our fears, even the ones that seem insurmountable, something quietly powerful begins to happen. The panic that once roared in our hearts begins to soften. The trembling fades into a steady beat of courage we did not know we possessed. Courage born from trust is unlike any other. It does not announce itself with fanfare or demand recognition. It is quiet, subtle, and often unnoticed by the world around us. It is the courage that rises when no one is watching, the courage that allows us to keep moving when the path ahead is dark and uncertain. This courage does not depend on perfect conditions or guaranteed outcomes. It relies on the knowledge that the one who holds the universe also holds our lives. And when we place our fears into His hands, the impossible begins to feel possible, and the weight we carry grows lighter with every step. Trusting God does not remove life's challenges, but it transforms the way we face them. It allows us to meet difficulties not with desperation, but with quiet resolve. It turns anxiety into patience, doubt into faith, and despair into hope. When we trust, we begin to see that our struggles are not barriers meant to break us, but teachers guiding us toward wisdom, strength, and resilience. Every setback, every delay, every moment of uncertainty becomes an invitation to rely not on our own strength, but on the unshakable foundation of divine care. The courage we gain is not a loud proclamation. It is the steady, enduring confidence that no matter what comes, we will not fall apart, for we are held. And this transformation is not just for moments of great trial. It is for the everyday battles, the quiet frustrations, and the persistent worries that shape our lives. Trust turns ordinary moments into opportunities for faith, and ordinary hearts into vessels of resilience. Fear loses its grip not because life becomes easy, but because the soul discovers a courage so deep that nothing can shake it. When trust guides us, we walk with a peace that the world cannot give, a peace that sustains us through storms, setbacks, and the unknown. So let us choose trust over fear, surrender over striving, and faith over worry. Let us allow God to hold the places in our hearts where fear once reigned, and watch as courage rises quietly, steadily, and powerfully. Because the moment we trust God, fear no longer has the final say. Courage steps forward, soft yet unyielding, and life begins to shift in ways we could never have imagined. There is a longing inside every heart to hold life tightly, to steer it exactly where we think it should go. We plan, we organize, we push, and we try to command every moment as if we alone can shape the future. But life has a way of teaching us that control is often an illusion. The harder we grip, the more it slips through our fingers, and the more we strain, the more we lose the beauty that waits to unfold. It is only in the quiet surrender of that control that life begins to open in ways we never imagined. The moment we loosen our fists, we make room for possibilities that were never visible when we were too busy trying to force a path. Releasing control is not an act of weakness. It is a courageous choice to trust something greater than ourselves. When we stop trying to script every outcome, we create space for the unexpected gifts that have been waiting quietly, patiently, for our hearts to recognize them. Opportunities that seemed impossible appear. Doors that were firmly shut creak open just enough for us to step through. People who bring wisdom, encouragement, and inspiration arrive when we least expect them. Life begins to move with a rhythm far wiser than our own, and we find that what unfolds is often better than what we had planned. There is a gentle freedom that comes when we stop controlling everything. Anxiety eases, tension softens. The constant need to manipulate and perfect fades, replaced by a quiet curiosity about what might come next. This freedom does not mean the challenges vanish, nor that the road ahead becomes smooth, but it changes the way we walk the path. We begin to see obstacles as guides, detours as invitations, and waiting as preparation. We begin to trust that the timing, the people, and the moments arriving in our lives are part of a design far beyond our understanding. When we release control, we also release fear. Fear thrives when we feel solely responsible for the outcome of every decision. But surrendering to God, to life, to the process, allows fear to lose its grip. Courage takes its place. We step forward not with perfect certainty, but with the confidence that we are not walking alone. Every unexpected shift, every surprising turn, becomes part of a larger story that we cannot yet see, but that we can feel unfolding in our hearts. And in that surrender, we discover a life richer than any we could have constructed on our own. Joy arrives in surprising ways. Peace settles in spaces we thought would always be restless, and opportunities blossom where we once saw only dead ends. Life opens to us when we stop holding it too tightly, and in the gentle letting go, we find that the universe, the divine, or God, has been working all along, preparing, guiding, and shaping every moment. The release of control is not the end of effort. It is the beginning of a life in which effort aligns with grace, and the unexpected becomes a gift rather than a threat. Faith is often misunderstood. We think it is meant to bend the world to our will, to erase difficulty, to make every door open exactly when we want it to. But true faith is subtler, quieter, and far more profound. Sometimes faith does not alter the circumstances around us immediately. Sometimes it moves first within us, reshaping the heart, the mind, and the spirit before the outer world responds. And it is in that inner transformation that we begin to see what seemed impossible slowly come into reach. When we face challenges, it is natural to want instant results. We pray for change, for relief, for a clear path, and we wonder why the situation does not shift as quickly as our hearts desire. Yet the waiting is not wasted. Faith works behind the scenes, softening pride, strengthening patience, and teaching resilience. It opens our eyes to the gifts hidden in hardship, the lessons hidden in delay, and the strength hidden in our own hearts. We begin to see that what we thought was a dead end is really a training ground, a place where courage, endurance, and understanding are cultivated. Faith changes us by shifting our perspective. It teaches us to look at setbacks not as punishments, but as preparation. It whispers that every difficulty has purpose, that every delay has a meaning beyond what we can comprehend. In that quiet work of faith, we discover patience where we once had frustration, hope where we once had despair, and clarity where we once had confusion. Our hearts grow stronger, our spirits steadier, and our vision sharper. The faith that seemed to wait silently in our chest is already moving mountains within us, before it moves anything around us. This inner transformation also changes how we respond to the world. When faith shapes us first, we begin to act differently, speak differently, and think differently. We no longer react in fear or anger. We no longer cling to control or demand immediate results. Instead, we move with a quiet confidence that the unfolding of life is guided by a hand greater than our own. That confidence allows us to make better choices, to see opportunities we previously missed, and to approach obstacles with grace instead of resistance. And then, often when we least expect it, the outer world begins to reflect the inner work faith has done. Situations shift, doors open, relationships heal, and paths appear where none seem possible. But it is never the instant that matters most. It is the change in us that allows us to meet that moment ready, grateful, and strong. Faith, when it works first on the inside, equips us to navigate life not with panic or despair, but with courage, clarity, and purpose. It reminds us that the greatest miracles often begin quietly within the heart, long before they show themselves in the world outside. There are moments in life when we feel the clock ticking too slowly, when every delay stretches our patience thin, and every pause in progress feels like a weight pressing down on our hearts. We plan, we rush, we try to force the doors open, and yet the answers we seek seem to linger just beyond reach. It is in those moments of waiting, however, that God's timing quietly unfolds, carrying a wisdom far beyond what our hurried minds can grasp. What feels like a delay is often a preparation, shaping us, teaching us, and guiding us toward something far greater than we could have imagined on our own. Patience is not merely the act of waiting, it is the art of trusting. When we surrender to God's timing, we allow ourselves to step out of the chaos of our own urgency and into a rhythm that has been carefully orchestrated. We begin to see that every pause, every setback, every moment that tests our endurance is a teacher. It teaches us humility, it teaches us strength, and it teaches us faith that does not depend on immediate results. The wisdom embedded in divine timing is never hurried, never rushed, and never wasted. It is a slow, steady unfolding, much like the bloom of a flower or the rising of the sun, each stage necessary for the beauty that comes at the right hour. Often our impatience blinds us to the subtle ways God is working in our lives. We want answers now, clarity now, results now, and yet the answers that arrive too soon may not last, and the clarity that comes too quickly may not be complete. When we trust the timing that is not our own, we begin to notice the small miracles, the quiet guidance, and the gentle alignments that were happening all along. It is in that surrender that our hearts learn to recognize the difference between what we want immediately and what we need ultimately. God's timing also teaches us resilience. The waiting period is not wasted. It strengthens our character, refines our understanding, and deepens our faith. In the pause, we learn to rely not on our own strength, but on a power far greater than our own. We learn that there is a purpose in every delay, a lesson in every pause, and a reason for every season of seeming stillness. When the time finally comes, we are not only ready to receive what we have been waiting for, but we are transformed enough to handle it with wisdom, grace, and gratitude. And so the impatience that once pressed against our hearts gives way to a quiet understanding. We begin to see that God's timing is perfect, even when ours is flawed. We begin to trust that every closed door, every postponed plan, and every moment of waiting has a purpose designed to lead us into a life richer, fuller, and wiser than we could have imagined. The moment we align ourselves with that timing, life begins to shift, not because we forced it, but because we learned to walk in step with a wisdom far deeper than our own. There are moments in life when the burdens we carry seem too heavy to bear. We stack responsibilities, worries, and fears on our shoulders, thinking that strength comes from holding on tightly, refusing to let go. We walk through each day weighed down by doubt, frustration, and the pressure to control what feels uncontrollable. And yet there comes a sacred moment, quiet and unannounced, when the choice to trust God begins to shift everything. The instant we surrender our grip, the pressure eases, and the heart discovers a space it has not known before, a space of relief, of calm, and of unexpected freedom. Trust is not a one-time act. It is a turning of the heart from fear to faith. When we trust God, we are saying, in essence, that we are no longer the sole architects of our destiny. We acknowledge that there is a higher hand guiding our steps, a wisdom that sees beyond what our eyes can perceive, a love that carries what we cannot carry alone. The moment we make that shift, the weight that pressed so heavily on our spirits begins to lift. Not because our problems vanish, but because the burden of facing them alone has been removed. The heart finds rest in knowing it is no longer responsible for controlling every outcome, for steering every turn, for holding everything together. This lifting is gentle at first, subtle as a breeze brushing against a heavy cloak. It whispers to us that life is not meant to be carried in isolation, that our struggles are not meant to crush us, and that faith is not passive, but active. As we step into trust, courage grows where fear once thrived. Clarity emerges where confusion once clouded our vision. The soul begins to breathe more deeply, feeling a relief that is not the absence of challenge, but the presence of divine guidance. It is in this space that we learn the most profound truth, that true strength is not measured by how tightly we hold on, but by how willingly we can let go. When we allow God to carry the weight alongside us, we also discover patience, resilience, and grace. We begin to see that the delays, the struggles, and the setbacks were not signs of failure, but opportunities to learn how to rely on something greater than ourselves. The burden that once seemed unbearable becomes a teacher, shaping our hearts to endure, shaping our minds to trust, and shaping our spirits to rise even when circumstances feel impossible. The relief is not always immediate, but it is always real, always transformative, always preparing us for the moments yet to come. And in the end, the moment we trust God, everything shifts. The heaviness that clouded our steps is replaced by a quiet strength that carries us forward. The anxieties that kept us awake at night are softened by the knowledge that we are not alone, and the life that once felt overwhelmingly heavy begins to feel light enough to move in the direction of purpose, peace, and hope. That is the sacred power of trust. The moment it arrives, everything begins to lift.